Hello, welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor of CropLife and CropLife Iron magazines here in St. Louis, Missouri on a road trip, but I am joined by Lara Sowinski from Texas. Lara, welcome.
Thank you. How's it going over there?
Well, it's going fine. I'm so glad you asked. Yes, I'm actually here at what is now, as we're recording this video, the conclusion of the 2022 Mid America CropLife Association meeting, their first in-person meeting in 2 years. The last 2 years, because of COVID restrictions and concerns, they held virtual meetings, but this year's meeting was a live meeting. And I'll have a lot of information to share about that in upcoming videos, including next week's. But just a little teaser on who was here and what was said. One of the first talks we heard from was from Jason Henderson, who's with Purdue University. And he was talking about kind of the ag economy, the state of the ag economy. And the one key takeaway from his presentation was that economists tend to like to look at the past and their charts and graphs from years gone by to determine where things are headed in the here and now and in the future. But as he pointed out, with COVID popping up, that's kind of thrown a monkey wrench into everything. And his direct quote was, but COVID doesn't look like anything from the past on anyone's chart, unquote. So again, his point was that there's still a big uncertainty factor in a lot of the projections that are out there. So the market will just have to stay tuned and see how things all pan out as we go forward into the next year.
Yep, good. Yeah, no, makes sense. I've been thinking about that. Just a little quick kind of plug for PACE at the moment. On that same note, we're talking about kind of supply and demand dynamics, and also margins and risk, and as you said, and as Jason's quote, it nails it. There's no point of reference, and really does kind of up the importance of getting together, talking about things, reevaluating what we're doing and why, and where we're all heading. So yeah.
Yeah, and that sort of leads to the next speaker I wanted to highlight from this meeting, a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Shaver, who was with a company called Envision Partners. And his whole talk was how to deal with managing stress in the here and now, because God knows, last couple of years with all the uncertainty and COVID going on, the stress level for most people has probably been way off the charts. I know it has been for me. I went from 1 blood pressure medicine to 2, so I'm sure I wasn't alone, unfortunately, in that little ailment department. But he actually offered up 4 different tips, if you will, for how folks can kind of deal with stress, help manage stress as they move through their lives. His number 1 point was they should foster body wellness, which basically means eating right, getting enough sleep, etc. The second thing he suggested was finding purpose, basically having goals and plans in place whenever you're doing something, so that the unknowns are at a minimum, so you're not stressing about, oh gosh, I didn't think of that kind of thing. His third tip was, of course, healthy thinking, always thinking positive, that yes, I can do this, the little engine that could, as opposed to, you're going to get up that hill and it's not going to be a problem. And of course, the fourth thing was building relationships. He says no one should have to go through these things alone, and that having some type of a partnership or a familial connection to help get through the stressful times is always important.
Very good. Very good. I think he left out one, number 5. Every day should be Taco Tuesday. Should it not?
Didn't bring that one up, but given every day should be Taco Tuesday. I'll have to drop an email to Jonathan and suggest that as his 5th one. I'm sure that would make for, because one of the things he did in his session was he had some little hands-on roundtables where folks were writing down some suggestions and tips for their coworkers and other people here at the meeting. I'm sure maybe handing out walking tacos to everyone would be a nice way of ending his session as well. I'll bring that up in an email. So And there was also the third thing, we ended on a panel discussion with a couple of key folks from the industry. I'll just tease that now, but I took some video and we'll splice together a few highlights from those speakers for next week's video. So, but
Great.
that was the 2022 MACA meeting, a success, and it was certainly good to see everyone in person after a 2-year absence.
That's fantastic. Great. Good deal.
Okay. Well, so for the rest of this video, I guess we would kind of slug this under the heading of good news, bad news. We have good news and bad news to share. And, you know, we have 2 other items to go over, and there's good news and bad news for each of them. So first up, you know, of course, we've been talking a lot about supply chain disruptions and a lot of issues regarding, you know, how stuff gets from point A to point B. And a lot of it goes by truck, goes by ship, goes by rail. And speaking of rail, we do have on the good news side to report that on August 29th, 3 different labor unions representing 15,000 rail workers reached a tentative agreement with the rail carriers. So they now have a contract proposal in place, which will go to their memberships for voting. So that's the good news. And that, of course, hopefully will avert a strike possibility for those 3 labor unions. However, on the bad news side, there's still 9 other labor unions out there representing approximately 130,000 rail workers that have yet to reach agreements with the rail carriers. So you know, the threat of a strike is still out there from, I guess, those 9 other unions, perhaps. So, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that if they could cross the bridge with 3 labor unions, the other 9 won't be too far behind. Fingers crossed.
Well, I think your wish is partially granted because as of this morning, they're reporting 5 of 12.
There you go. So you had more up-to-date information than I. So that's what happens when I'm in St. Louis. I'm going with some older information here, and you got the more up-to-date. Well, good. So then, yeah, we're still not quite halfway there, but close,
Right.
Much closer.
Yep. Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah, and then the other thing to share, of course, on the good news, bad news front. I know one of the things we always watch on this program, the whole industry does in agriculture, is the projections for farmer income for the current calendar year. And the USDA put out those projections this week. And according to what they see, net farm income for 2022 should hit $168.5 billion. Now, that'll be the highest net farmer income level achieved by the nation's growers since 2012. So 10 years. So good news is on that front. But on the bad side, of course, as you might imagine, production costs, crop input costs, fuel costs have also risen. And those are expected to top $437.3 billion this year. Which is a pretty significant increase of about 8.7% from 2021. So that'll cut into the profit margins for the growers. But again, good news, they will make more money this year than last.
Yeah, that is good news. The arrows are going up.
Which, you know, and again, making more money than less money is usually a good thing. I don't think there's anybody who'll disagree with that. So
Unless it pops you into a new higher tax bracket.
No, I don't know. I suppose since you moved from California to Texas that you now are in a lower one just because of geography, but that's just me.
No, you're right. I did.
All
I had to do a double take when I looked at my pay. I thought I'd received a raise, but it was a raise of sorts, but you know what I mean.
Yes, unfortunately, you know, California may be a nice place to live, but I know they do have a reputation for having some of the highest taxes in the country, if not the highest. So unfortunately, I know that that has probably motivated many people like yourself to decide that locating a state or 2 over or even further is not a bad deal. So
yeah, there's always a trade-off. So yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, the trade-off now is, of course, you have to play the game. So, Miss Laura, it is time for fun with numbers.
Alrighty.
All right. So keep in mind, the number I'm going to hit you with will tie back to something that we've sort of discussed.
Okay.
Hopefully that'll give you a clue to which option to pick as your answer, but your number, pretty small, 5%.
Okay.
All right, 5%. So is 5% A, is that the percentage increase in projected corn acreage for 2023? Is it B, the percentage of rail workers now agreeing to new terms with the rail carriers? Is it C, the percentage of shipping containers that have been unloaded on the West Coast in 2022 versus 2021? Or is it D, the percentage of time that I've slept in my own bed the past 3 weeks since I've been on the road almost perpetually that whole time?
Give me the, what was C again? The ocean container one?
Oh, yeah, the ocean containers. Yeah, the percentage of ocean containers that have been unloaded at West Coast ports in 2022 versus 2021. And again, your number is 5%. So
Yeah,
that should clue you in right there.
yeah. C.
No, I'm sorry. No, Miss Laura, actually that number is 40%. It's a higher number than 5%. The rail carriers now, based on your new information, that number is probably closer to 45%. Percentage of time I've slept at home over the last 3 weeks is closer to 40%. So we're all in the 40% there. So obviously your option, the correct one was A. According to USDA's projections, farmers are anticipating that they're going to plant 94 million acres of corn in 2023, because of course, US growers love corn, and that will be a 5% increase from the number they had here in 2022.
Bummer, I should have gotten that one.
Yeah, that's all right. And I brought up the shipping container one because one of the speakers here at MACA showed a slide with all these piled up containers and ships waiting to unload, and threw that number up there. And I'm like, that's a pretty good number. I should share that with Miss Laura because she knows and follows that market pretty heavily. So
I do, and I thought you might be trying to trick me because I'm thinking, well, what about all the cargo that's been diverted to the East Coast? Or maybe he's being unloaded, but it's really just sitting on the water still.
yeah, no, this number was for West Coast specific. So some of that stuff's been diverted, I know, but yeah, that wasn't included in this percentage. So
Okay, you got me.
oh, well, that's okay. Better luck next week. All right. Well, Miss Laura, on behalf of myself, here from the 2022 MACA meeting in St. Louis, and my partner in crime, Lara Sowinski, thanks for joining us this week, everyone, and we will see you again real soon. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.